Welcome back to this video, responding to this guy's response to my response to his video. We're in the middle of being told that because we're atheists, we shouldn't value ourselves and we should feel worthless and blah, 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 blah. If something here doesn't make sense, if it feels like some context might be missing, maybe try watching part 1. But I'm sure you'll pick it up as you go along. It's really not that complicated.
You're no different from an ant. You're no different from a spider. You're literally no different. So
I'm no different. Take an ant, take a human, put them side by side. Can't tell the difference. No different. No different. Behaviorally, socially, no different. The default response of a young child to watching the head get torn off an ant versus watching the head get torn off a human, no different. No different. Totally indistinguishable. People don't naturally distinguish at all between ants and humans. The only distinction it's possible to make is cells and not cells. What other distinctions? There are no other possible criteria by which to prioritize things or perceive things or arrange things. And why is this one random distinction the only one that's possible for anyone to ever make? Why, because you told us so. So it must be true. Because of course the distinctions we're able to make are purely defined by whatever random crap you personally tell us that we're allowed to. And nothing else. Oh God, Emperor of the Atheists. I mean, come on. It's not like humans have some sort of evolutionary history of growing up in social situations, having to live as a society and cooperate. It's not like there's any sort of survival benefit to being able to tell the difference between a cockroach and a human being. It's not like there's some sort of incredibly obvious reason why we might do that requires reasoning skills scarcely beyond that of an infant to identify. Nope, the entire universe is just stuff that sells and stuff that's not. And if there is any other difference, I sure can't see it. Nor should I, because the God Emperor of the Atheists has spoken.
You know, if I can easily kill a cockroach, I can easily kill another person because...
Try it. But here's the thing about that. You want to know something really funny? When you think about it, what matters less than killing a cockroach? What happens when you kill a cockroach? It dies, right? It ends completely. What happens when you kill a person in a theistic universe who has a soul? Nothing. The clump of cells dies, but you say that doesn't matter. The person lives on. There's no problem doing it, right? No matter how hard you try, that person can't even die. And you think it matters less if the thing actually dies. Total annihilation, never to exist again. Even if it's just the death of a cockroach, at least that's a death. That makes it more important than the non-death of a ghost inside of a clump of cells that goes to live a super happy life forever. That's the obvious outcome of your belief system, but for some reason you think it's the opposite. So what makes the non-death of the human more severe in your opinion? I think it's just fear for yourself. If people don't have souls and you kill them, as long as you get away with the crime, I guess you're fine, right? If you're a total lunatic, anyway. But if the whole story of the souls and the gods and the hells are true, God might send you to hell for it. So the reason to avoid killing people isn't because they die, because it matters. The reason to avoid it is because you're scared for yourself. Not because you give a damn about the person, right? It's not about how valuable the person is that you snuff out. The person keeps on existing. No value lost. It's just about fear of the consequences, fear of retribution. That's not value. Your worldview is so unbelievably anti-human. Anti-everything. It's so thoroughly designed, every element of it, to destroy the value of everything, even all the way up to human life. And it shrieks the opposite. It claims, it says that it's what gives things value while it takes it away. And people somehow fail to notice.
ultimately they don't really matter. They're nothing but cells, the same type of cells that these cockroaches are.
Well, for one thing, not really the same type of cells. But cells, yeah. Now, of course, your cell phone is just a bunch of, carbon and silicon and stuff like that. Just a pile of atoms, really. So you wouldn't mind if I took a sledgehammer and smashed the shit out of it, right? I mean, it's no different from a pile of scrap. It's the same kind of atoms. It's literally indistinguishable. And God doesn't make you morally value a phone. God doesn't put value into the phone. That's a man-made object. It's worthless, valueless. God didn't say it has value to him, so it means nothing to you. I can do anything I want to it, and you won't care even a little bit. Maybe that has the only copy of the pictures of your best time out with your fiance, the time you really want to remember for the rest of your life. Maybe it has pictures of when you proposed. But that's just physical things. You'd have no reaction to it, right? It's no different than any other pile of material. Except that the value of it is a little bit more than just what it's made of, isn't it? The value of it is in what it is to you. And if we extend that idea just a teeny tiny little bit, you might almost be able to reach a really fucking obvious conclusion.
But no, we know that there's a difference. Intuitively, we know that there's a difference.
Between cockroaches and humans? Yeah. One's a cockroach, one's a human. We don't live in a society of cockroaches, we live in a society of humans. We don't love cockroaches, we love humans. We're evolved to be social with humans, people who have agency to cooperate with us, to live with us, to help us, to love us. And that's why outside of human spheres, we can also be social with things like a dog, or even a cat. Not with pests like cockroaches, things that are incapable of giving any sort of a damn about us.
I bet there are people who love cockroaches.
Well, there are, yeah, but
Yeah, I know.
To be honest, that even shows the point more.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like humans are so adapted to care about other things that they even sometimes care about cockroaches and spiders and stuff.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Why? Because we are fearfully, wonderfully made in the image of God. It's not that we just came up one day and said, hey, let's give ourselves value. Human beings are going to be the ultimate, clumps of cells in this universe.
The ultimate. Okay, we'll get back to that because that sounds like a whole can of worms, a whole clump of cells. But yeah, humans did just give ourselves value. Probably not consciously, we just sort of gradually came to operate socially because it was useful for survival. But along with that comes some sort of concern for the other people, the other members of the pack, the tribe, those who are surviving with you. And originally this probably had a lot more to do with the genes than it does now, although it still very much does. That's why your close family typically are the most important people to you. The people who are closely genetically related to you or who help you pass on your genes. But that's broadened out over the years. It's much more general now. The point is, yeah, the value of humans to humans does in fact come from humans. It seems kind of tautological. If God valued humans but humans didn't, we probably wouldn't care that much. Our values are our values, not somebody else's values.
That's not how it works. That's not how it happens.
Just to reiterate what you said it's not like we just came up one day and decided, hey, we're going to give ourselves value, and we humans are going to be the ultimate organism in the universe. And you're saying that's not how it happens. The people who wrote the Bible, who decided they had dominion over all the animals and so on, that's not how it happens. Yeah, that seems like exactly how it happens. People form opinions and then they believe them. Sometimes they write them down. Yep. If that doesn't happen, how do you explain every single opinion about anything, including every other religion? What, did God hand the other religions down too?
Macroevolution didn't just choose humans to be the ultimate species of this universe.
Are we the ultimate species of the universe? What does that mean? I'm serious, I don't know what that means. We're a species, and we're a social species, and therefore we value other members of our species. And occasionally we value members of species other than ours as well. That doesn't require us to be some sort of ultimate species, it just requires us to be us. What is an ultimate species even? I mean, species survive in different ways. They're adapted to different environments, different circumstances. That's evolution. Ultimate really doesn't mean anything. I mean, about the closest to ultimate you can say is that right now we're the species with the most control over our environment, which is an extremely good survival strategy, I'll give it that. But it's not really inherently better or somehow ultimate, it's just different. What is the claim exactly? Is the claim that we shouldn't care about other people unless humans are the ultimate species? Because then somehow we would matter objectively, and we don't matter if we're not the ultimate species, and so we should just not care? Is that the claim? I'm asking if that's the claim because it's incredibly dumb. I don't see any reason why that should be true. You've certainly not even tried to present one, but I don't see what else the claim would be.
Macroevolution didn't choose human beings. Why didn't they choose dogs or lions?
They? Why didn't they choose dogs or lions to be the ultimate species? In evolution, there is no ultimate species to start with. That's a completely pointless concept. And it's also not a they. Was that just a slip of the tongue?
Or dinosaurs. Why couldn't they choose any of these other animals?
Okay, I don't exactly know what ultimate life form or ultimate clump of cells or whatever means, but dinosaurs for many, many millions of years were about the closest you could get. So I think the macroevolution they did choose dinosaurs. And then the asteroid/comet they chose to obliterate them.
Why couldn't they choose animals? Why couldn't we be locked in a cage, put in a cage, and be in the wild while animals, have mind and logic and have jobs and weddings and all that stuff? Why?
Why couldn't humans be put in a cage or live in the wild and dogs and lions and dinosaurs have jobs and weddings instead? Well, I'm sure if the dogs and lions had been so inclined to have jobs and weddings and also build civilization first, maybe we would still live in the wild, or be put in cages by the dog-lion overlords. but we're not. I mean, what do you want me to tell you? How can the world be the way it is? I mean, it's not a different way, so how could it be this way? What are you asking me? This is complete nonsense. Like, you're just throwing up words and they make sentences, but the sentences don't mean anything.
It's because there's a distinction. There's a difference between human beings and animals.
There is a difference between human beings and other animals, yes. Human beings are not cockroaches, spiders, ants, dogs, lions, or dinosaurs. And dogs, lions, and dinosaurs don't have jobs and weddings. I can't argue with that. That's definitely true. I'm not sure where you think it gets you, but it is, in fact, a fact.
But atheism thinks that we're all the same, that there is no difference.
Atheism, the position that cockroaches, spiders, ants, dogs, lions, dinosaurs, and humans are all the same. Yep, that's what we're talking about when we talk about atheism. That's definitely what we're getting at, yeah.
Because we all came from the same set of cells. We all came from a same point of non-density. We all came from the same single point. So if we are all the same, we're no different from a cockroach.
The universe had an origin, and everything comes from that origin, and life is made of cells, and therefore there's no difference between a cockroach and a human. Okay, I understand the start of the argument. I understand the end of the argument. Can you tell me what the middle is? I could really use a middle. I like middles. The middle's the best part. That's where the meat is in the burger of the argument.
And that's why it's hard for me to take an atheist serious. It's like, I get it. You may have strong arguments, or you may be a tough person. You want to argue or stuff like that. But listen, if you're no different from a cockroach, why should I listen to you?
What do I give a shit if you listen to me? Look, you're saying you have all this trouble taking me seriously because, like, I think I'm not different from a cockroach or something. The fact is, dude, every argument you've made so far has been a pile of garbage. It's trash. Complete trash. Not thought through at all. Non sequitur after non sequitur. Absolute nonsense. How the hell am I supposed to take you seriously when you talk like this? Why should I take you seriously? And why should I care if you listen to what I have to say? The people who watch my videos want to hear what I have to say. I know you don't. You're a true believer. You know? I know you don't care what I have to say. The last video I responded to of yours made that abundantly clear. You'd rather believe that we say a bunch of crap we don't say, that we think a bunch of crap we don't think, and then you'd rather feel good when you decide that that's ridiculous. Apparently that's enough for you. And fine, you know, let that be enough for you. I really don't care. I didn't go into this expecting you to deconvert. I don't go into this expecting anyone to deconvert. The chances of that happening with the people I respond to is next to zero. I don't know that that's ever happened, but it has happened among the people who watch my videos. So the videos I make in response to you, yeah, they probably won't have any effect on you. I mean, your entire video up until this point has been excuses as to why you don't want to listen to arguments, even if they're good ones, like you just said. You might have strong arguments, but if you think you're no different from a cockroach, why should I listen to them? Because they're strong arguments, dumbass, but you're not going to do it. I know you're not. It's not for you, but you're going to help a whole bunch of other people become atheists because your arguments are so bad and they cut right to the empty core of your belief system. They lay out as simple as can be exactly how bad it is. So, you know, do what you want. Keep ignoring the strong arguments from the cockroach people. It really doesn't matter. You're just one in the crowd.
If you're no different from a bug, why should I listen to you? If you're nothing but a clump of cells, a big blob, why should I listen to you?
You shouldn't. You should go pray. Pray that you haven't done too much damage.
If you're only reacting to the wiring in your brain, how can you trust your own thinking? How can you trust your own position if it's being controlled by your brain wiring? If it's controlled by the process of your evolution? How can you trust it?
If you're being controlled by whatever process controls the spook that haunts your brain, how can you trust that? You don't know if that's any more trustworthy than a physical brain, and either way it works the same. Fact is, you can't trust it. How's that for a hard-to-swallow pill? That's a very good reason not to be religious, because religion implies absolute certainty. Religion implies believing something so strongly that you think you know the answer, that you can absolutely trust your mind to have reached the right conclusion. But you can't. Your mind's not perfect. Your mind is untrustworthy. That's what you see around you every day. That's what you experience in your own mind every day. Human thought shows pretty good results a lot of the time. It reaches conclusions that appear concordant with reality a lot of the time. And at other times, it shows terrible results or tragic results. Look around. Look how the people around you are. Look what they do. Look what they think. Look what they say. How many people around you do you disagree with? How many people who are absolutely certain of what they believe are completely wrong? All disagreeing with each other on things they must agree on, or most of them at least are wrong. But anyway, let me summarize your argument. It seems to be, if there's a God, our minds should work perfectly and be perfectly trustworthy. We should be able to rely on our thinking perfectly. We shouldn't have to question it. If we come to a conclusion, it should be correct. Period. Now, what do we actually see? What we actually see is everyone, that means me, that means you, is fallible in their mind. They're capable of deep irrationality, total delusion, or, more typically, just falling for basic fallacies, falling for mental illusions, falling for easy assumptions, leaping to conclusions, feeling certainty when they should not, flawed memory, excessive trust in what other people say, a lack of self-control, being prone to influences of all kinds of natural desires, like for immediate gratification, which make us ignore things like rational long-term goals. We're capable of bias. We're capable of arrogance. We're capable of emotional thinking. We're capable of putting more priority on what we wish were true than what is actually true. And we're not always capable of thinking our way out. And that's, of course, why we always have to be having arguments, and why we have to remain open to the possibility that we're wrong, even when we feel incredibly strongly that we're right. Even when our parents told us that we're right. Even when our pastor told us that we're right. Or when I told you that you're right. Or when you've told yourself that you're right. How can you trust it? I mean, come on. Your mind, as much as mine, is deeply, deeply imperfect and certainly not always trustworthy. So if this trustworthy, perfect mind that you can rely on for all of your reasoning and feel totally confident, 100% certain in the end that you're right, if that's a consequence of God's existence, and clearly it doesn't exist, well then what does that say about God's existence? Are you absolutely sure you want to stand by this point? Are you sure that your reasoning here was good? How much do you trust your mind? Do you believe it even in the face of reality?
You only believe what you believe because that's the direction that your evolution led you in.
The human brain is the product of evolution. It works in accordance with our evolution, hence all the logical fallacies, hence all the misperceptions that are most easily explained through evolution, hence the flawed thinking underlying religion. Yeah. Evolution provides real good explanations for all of that. Thanks for the random argument in favor of evolution, I guess.
So it's illogical.
What's illogical? To reach a conclusion through logical reasoning if your mind happens to be made in a certain way of a certain material on the basic level? Your mind works the same way if there's a soul in it, dude. It doesn't matter. The mind works how the mind works. It's the same fucking mind either way. What architecture it's built on, what origin it has, is pretty irrelevant to the observable facts of how it functions. Any fallacy, any misperception, any misunderstanding, any lack of reasoning that my brain is prone to, yours is as well. So if you want to undermine human reasoning, you're undermining your own as well, which means every single one of your reasons to believe in God goes out the window. Again, are you sure you want to go down that path? Are you sure your reasoning here was good?
You have no evidence.
Remember what we're talking about here. We're talking about your claim in your video, made with no evidence but your say-so, that atheists actually accept all your amazing arguments for God, but we're just scared liars. That's the claim we're talking about, that apparently I have no evidence for, or rather for the contrary of. Now, I agree, I have no evidence beyond my say-so that you're wrong. No evidence that'll convince you. But I'm not trying to convince you. I can't convince you that I believe what you say I don't believe, or that I don't believe what you say I do. If you've made up your mind about what I believe, no matter what I say, I can't convince you otherwise. You're not approaching this from a position of reason, you're approaching this from a position of arrogance and assuming things about other people. That's pretty hard for me to argue against or to even want to bother. My video was not to present evidence against you on that point. My video was not for you. It's not for Christians in general. My videos are for atheists. Those are who watch my videos. My video was just to say, ha ha ha, look at this stupid person making a stupid point that we all know is false. Because of course, we know what's in our heads and you don't, no matter how psychic you might think you are. So yeah, evidence of what? It's like you're having a different conversation asking me for evidence. It's like you don't know what you're talking about, who you're talking to, you're just throwing out buzzwords.
The only evidence that you have is the evidence that you think you have based on the process of your evolution.
Oh my god, dude, seriously, evidence of what? Tell me in one sentence what you think I'm supposed to be providing evidence of right now. What is it in my original video that you want evidence for? That you think I should be concerned with evidence for? It's like you're singing a song that you know all the words for, but you don't know where they go.
That's ultimately what it is. But why are theists different? Why? It's because we don't believe that. That is not reality. That's not reality.
Right, you believe you have a perfectly trustworthy brain that leads you to an exactly perfect conclusion of which you can be absolutely certain every time, despite the fact that theists disagree with each other constantly, despite the fact that your reasoning is clearly as fallible as everyone else's, and despite the fact that the mere existence of a soul would be no guarantee whatsoever of sound reasoning.
We believe that you were made in the image of God. God created you. He gave you purpose. He designed you. He knitted you in your mother's womb. There's an ultimate goal for you. There is a calling for you.
What does that have to do with whether you can rely on your reasoning, or whether your evidence is good for whatever you think you're supposed to be providing evidence of? Your video is a rambling mess. Did you even have point form notes before you started? I know it's a live stream, but you could have at least put some planning in.
Of course we are different from animals. Why? Because God made us. He created us in his likeness and his image. That's why.
No, you're different from a cockroach or a dog because you're not a cockroach or a dog. That's why. God or no God, that's why.
That's why we are so different.
Wait a second, you're saying why? Why we're so different? I almost didn't pick up on that, but before you were saying that if we don't believe we're made in the image of God, we believe we're not different. And now you're saying, no, the reason why we are so different is because we're made in the image of God. As if now the fact that we're different from a cockroach is a given, whereas before it was denied altogether. So you're objectively different from a cockroach unless evolution is true, and then you're identical to one. Is that the point? And once you start believing in God, then you realize, actually, I can distinguish a human from a cockroach. And now the only question is why I can. Well, it's a nice attempt at misdirection, but no luck, sorry.
And for you to sit there as an atheist and give yourself values, where did those values come from? Who said you could give yourself values?
What, do I need to ask permission? Teacher, can I go to the bathroom? No, you have to stay here till the end of class. Well then, can I at least give myself values? Okay, Timmy, but only one. Values are not healthy.
Why do we think about values? Why do we have an idea of values?
Because if you don't value things, certain objects, certain people, certain behaviors, and so on, it's really bad for the tribe. It's really bad for the species. To go to the extremes, where these things always tend to go, if you don't value people letting other people live, at the very least within the immediate group, you have some serious problems. At least if you want to live as a social group. If you want to go and be loners, like a cougar or something, or a crocodile, that's a different issue. You can get away without those values. The only thing you value at that point is whether an antelope falls in your mouth. But we're not crocodiles. We're a social animal. We rely on social norms. We rely on actions that benefit the group. And we're an intelligent animal. We learn. We learn what actions have what consequences. We learn what people are good to us or bad to us. We think about what matters to us and why, despite the fact that this is apparently impossible without being a theist, but we all do it. And broadening out from just people and actions, we also assign value to objects, things that in some way help us survive or improve our lives. Without evolution, really none of this makes much sense. It's all amazingly arbitrary, and really all people can say is, I don't know, maybe God made us like certain stuff for no reason whatsoever. Mysterious ways. With evolution, it all clicks into place, and you can see the entire big picture. Everything has a reason, or at least a plausible explanation based on our nature, based on our history. Really nothing is arbitrary except for stuff maybe with no survival cost. I mean, I know you didn't want an answer. I know that was meant to be rhetorical, but that's the answer.
Why do values even matter? What are values? Where does this immaterial source come from?
You keep referring to these things as immaterial. What do you mean? Like in the mind? Immaterial as in you can't reach out and touch it? Well, okay, but you can reach out and touch the brain and you can change people's values doing that. You can feed it chemicals and do the same. Or you can mash the brain into a fine paste and there's no values left. Seems remarkably material for being immaterial.
Values. What are values? Oh, we just woke up one day and said, hey, we should give each other values. We should value one another. We should stop killing one another.
Well, no, we didn't just wake up one day and think that. That wouldn't have been very good for evolution at all, would it? And of course, it's also not something that we just decided to do. It's something that's innate within us. A mother doesn't just decide to love her baby. The baby doesn't just decide to love its mom. You talk as if this is some arbitrary whim, when you know it's not.
Why? If we're no different from wild animals and wild animals kill each other.
What wild animals? You brought up dogs and lions. They don't just randomly kill each other. Ants, neither. These are all social animals. The ants have their nests, the dogs and lions have their packs, or prides, or whatever they call lions, and they get along pretty well. Sometimes there's conflict, sometimes there are fights, but generally speaking, they function as a unit. Now, of course, if a pack of dogs encounters another pack of dogs, or a pride of lions encounters another pride of lions, or a bunch of ants encounter a bunch of other ants, there's much more likely to be conflict. It's not inevitable, but much more likely. And that goes for humans too, because we're also social animals. I'm really curious now how you think nature works. Like, do you think wolf packs are just tearing each other to shreds all the time and then that's how they survive somehow? Do you think groups of lions just spend their day eating each other? I mean, you talk as if that's just what animals do. They just kill each other all the time. No group cohesion, no concern for one another at all. That's just not true at all. How do you think that's true? Have you never watched a nature documentary? Did you never read a book about animals? Like, what an incredibly weird opinion.
And you got like, you know, the king of the safari. You got like the lion, where all the lions obey him because he's like the strongest one. He had to fight his way to the top. Why can't we fight our way to the top?
People do that all the time. Have you ever read history?
Why do we have to sit here while the government is robbing stuff from us, taking advantage of us, kicking people out on the street while there's homeless people going hungry with no food? Why can't they fight to be on top?
They can. They're just not guaranteed to win. The government has cops and military. What does a homeless person have? A tin can? I mean, your question is not, why can't someone fight their way to the top? Your question is, why can't they be guaranteed to win? Which is stupid. Do you think every time some wannabe tough guy young lion stands up to the big guy, he wins? Every single time? Guaranteed? This is fascinating. I want to know how the world looks in your head.
Oh, wait, because it's illegal. Who gave us laws? Says who?
The guy on top. If you don't like it, try to change it. Plenty of people have done that. Civil wars, revolutions, even just quiet political revolutions, social revolutions, changing people's opinions, making this video right now. These less violent means are all a modern way of fighting your way to the top. I don't even understand the claim. Like, your claim is, there's a guy at the top who makes the laws and makes it illegal for people to challenge him. That's the government. And therefore, humans are not like animals who have a guy at the top that they can challenge for dominance, despite the fact that you just said that there is.
Oh, well, the government, it was popular opinion. But why should I feel controlled by human beings who are made up of the same clumps of cells?
I would say you shouldn't. I don't like the idea of you being controlled by someone else. I would like it if, rather than bowing to the government and saying it's right because it's legal or it's wrong because it's illegal, if people use their own brains, they performed their own moral reasoning, they came up with their own worldview, they decided what they think is right. Damn what the government says, damn what the guy on top tells me I should think is right. I've seen the kind of stuff the government thinks is right. It has no moral authority. It's not right just because the big guy says it. It's not just wrong because he says it. I'm going to consider this for myself. I'm going to think through actions. I'm going to think through consequences. I'm going to think through what kind of society I think would be good for people, what kind of society I want to live in, and I'm going to work to see that happen. That's what I want to see from people. That's what your religion rejects. It says, read what God says in the Bible and do that. He's the guy on top. You can't challenge him. He lives outside the universe, and he'll torture you if he doesn't like what you do. Forever. So get on your knees and obey. Doesn't matter how wrong you think it is to do what he says is right, do it anyway. And I agree, it's not a good way to go about things. It's not productive. But it's what you advocate even while you speak against it.
Why do I need to be controlled? Why are there people locked up in jail when they should have the right to do whatever they want, be whoever they want, if they came from the same origin, if they came from the same explosion or same cause of the universe? Why do you have to separate people? Why do people have to get locked up? Oh, because they're killing people? Because they're raping people? But who said it's wrong?
The people they're killing and raping. Look, I'm all for people having their rights. I'm all for people being able to do whatever they want that doesn't harm somebody else. But on the other hand, if you do harm somebody else, then the people around you who you're likely to harm have the right to harm you back. Frankly, it's very lenient that people only go to jail for these things. In previous societies, people were not so gentle. They would say, no, we don't want to be harmed by you, so you hang. If you don't like that the people who don't want to be harmed can send the people who want to commit harm to prison, stand up to the big guy, regardless of who he is. If it's not the government, it's going to be the other people in the society. Either way, step up. Let's see what you got. There have been times where the people who wanted to commit the murders and be terrible people won. at least for a while. And those are dark periods in human history, but they happened. It is possible. So all I'll say is take your shot. You live in a society, society will react to you. That's how social animals work, so see what happens.
Popular opinion? You know what? Popular opinion once said that abusing black people were okay.
Oh, you mean back when basically everyone in America was Christian? And through every single year, everywhere around the globe prior to emancipation. Thousands of years during which almost everybody believed in God. Fat lot of good that seemed to do. You know, people try to say sometimes that Christianity was responsible for the ending of slavery. And all I can say is, okay, where were you for the 1800 and something years before that?
Blacks had to sit in the back of the bus. Blacks couldn't go to the same school as whites. That was popular opinion.
Yeah, and at the exact same time, popular opinion was America's a Christian country, Jesus and God exist, and God dictates morality. And look, I'm not saying Christianity caused it. I think that's a very narrow view. I think that's a very simplistic take. But I am asking you to forgive me if I'm a little skeptical that Christianity is the cure for all social ills, or that atheism is responsible for all of them. Forgive my skepticism of the idea that popular belief in Christianity eradicates the human tendency to rule by popular belief.
Popular opinion once said that we have to kill all the Jews, all the homosexuals, all people, you know, all the weak.
Yeah, and then the other people fought the big guy for dominance, ideologically, and now popular opinion is that we should not do that. And it could change back. It could be otherwise. That's why we need to be vigilant. Because I don't care what religion you preach. I don't care if the entire country is Christian. Nazi Germany was almost universally Christian. America, under eugenics, was almost universally Christian. And it happened. And it can happen again. It will happen again. Maybe not the same exact thing, but something like it. Because we're animals. Because it's a constant struggle. Because some people are always fighting for dominance and they don't always have other people's best interests in mind, even if people like you and I do. Most people don't want to be awful people to each other. But even in a society where most people don't want that, it happens. Because it's easy for someone with the wrong motivations and the right amount of intelligence to drag that society off course. And sometimes it's bit by bit, or sometimes it's hidden, and people don't even know what's happening, or they don't know the full extent of it, or they don't know what they can do to even stop it. Sometimes organizing to do anything about it is next to impossible. The people of Nazi Germany could not have just risen up against the Nazis. It was too hard to coordinate. It's like your example of the homeless person. The homeless person couldn't rally all the homeless people to go and attack the government if he wanted to, but even if he wanted to, and even if he succeeded, it probably still wouldn't work. This is no longer some kind of religious discussion we're having. There's no religious disagreement that matters here. We're talking here about humanity and how humanity works. Everywhere. I wish it were as simple as just picking some religion that you think sounds nice and believing that and everything gets fixed. That history ends. That the terrible things humans do to each other from time to time just never happen again. But you're dreaming. You're not living in reality. People of every ideology are prone to behaving as animals because we are animals and we always behave as such. It's rare that we show the really dark side of that, but it does happen. No matter how much we want to talk about our morality and what we think people should do and the way they should feel and why, doesn't matter. And you might say, just like you did with the fact that life ends, that's a miserable life. You know, why would you want to believe that? It's miserable. But the fact is, it doesn't matter what you want to believe. It doesn't matter what makes you miserable or happy. Your emotions don't dictate what is. This is the world you live in. A world with people who are mostly good and sometimes very, very bad. Sorry.
Popular opinion once said that we have to kill our own people. And then I could die with a smile on my face, shaking my fist at God one last time. That was Stalin. Then we got Hitler.
Yep, so you best do your best to influence public opinion. You know, the modern mass-scale version of intra-tribal conflict. You have a little group of a dozen people over here who are on the side of the elder, and you have a little group of a dozen people over here who are on the side of the young guy. And maybe before it gets to all-out brother-against-brother conflict, maybe they can talk it out. Maybe one of the sides can convince the most people to join and present overwhelming force and make the other one back down. I've lost track of what the point was here. Because you keep presenting things that show the world works the way I think it works. You're arguing against people being animals, against people having flawed morality, flawed reasoning, against the idea that we kill each other, against the idea that we have struggles for dominance. But we do. You're pointing them out. And all I can say is yes, because we're animals, just like all the rest. Yes, we do things in a more complicated way, but it's not different in kind. It's only different in detail. You say just like I do that that's how it works. So what is the argument you're making? What are you trying to tell me? That you don't like it? That it scares you? And that therefore you don't want to believe it? It sounds kind of like that, but that's what you accused us of in relation to your God. So surely that's not what you're trying to tell me.
You guys really think that's how things go? It's silly to me. It really is silly to me. That's why I can't take that position serious.
It's silly to you that popular opinion led to black people sitting in the back of the bus, eugenics, people thinking Jews needed to be killed, and homosexuals, and Hitler and Stalin. It's silly to you that we think it works that way, that we think that's how things go, as you put it. What are you talking about? You just said that's how things go. You just said that's what happened. And I agree with you. History is an endless line of the struggles of human animal against human animal. That's what it's always been. Christian, atheist, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, none of the above. That's completely irrelevant. I mean, it's been relevant to some of the conflicts, obviously, where religion is the source of the division. But broadly speaking, violent conflict is just a human trait. It's rare, but it happens. Just like it's rare that conflict happens within a pack of dogs, but it happens. Just like it's rare it happens within a pride of lions, but it happens. Everything you said was true, and then you say it's silly. How is it silly? How is it silly beyond you don't like it and it scares you? How is it silly in any way other than you just don't want to acknowledge reality?
But you guys don't think about this. Atheists don't think about it.
We don't think about intergroup conflict? I think about it all the time. It's kind of a critical thing to keep in mind when you're looking at the world. In what way am I not thinking about it that you want me to? Denial?
They just want to take the position because they don't want God to exist. They don't want God to be real. They don't want God. That's all it is. They don't want God.
I take the position that people have intergroup conflicts and kill each other sometimes and oppress each other sometimes, and that human actions on a massive scale do indeed appear to be driven in large part by public opinion. I take that position apparently because I don't want God. Not because it's self-evidently true or anything. Nope, but just because I don't want to believe a thing that's not even relevant to the question. Okay.
Oh, but I want to complain about the evidence. Oh, we don't have enough evidence for this. We don't have enough evidence for that. You know why? Because you're not looking into the evidence.
I've made 300 videos responding to people presenting their evidence, and every single bit of it sucked. What more do you want from me? How much more time do you want me to spend looking into evidence that's crap? And what does that have to do with the truth that public opinion drives public action?
You can say you're looking into the evidence all you want, but you have not actually studied the evidence.
Then the people I've responded to have done a really poor job presenting it, I guess.
In fact, there's a lot 90% of the time when an atheist who is reasonable and who is honest looks into the evidence, they become a theist.
90% of the time, it works every time.
They end up becoming a theist.
So what you said is 90% of the time when an atheist who is reasonable and who is honest looks into the evidence, they become a theist. Now that's atheists you've defined as reasonable and honest. Any atheist that you don't define as reasonable and honest doesn't count. And if you recall from the video I responded to before, which was called If Atheists Were Actually Honest, the definition of an honest atheist is one who says, all of your arguments, Mr. Theist, are super, super awesome. I just don't like them and I'm scared. So if an atheist who says, all theist arguments are super great, but I just don't like them and I'm scared, looks at the evidence 90% of the time, not even 100% of the time, even though the arguments are so good, no, just 90% of the time, they become a theist. You know, all things considered, that's actually a pretty bad track record.
I have a list on my book. I actually list some popular atheists who are strong, devoted atheists who ended up coming to the conclusion that God exists and God is real.
Let me guess. Anthony Flew, Francis Collins, Lee Strobel, maybe. Alistair McGrath, C.S. Lewis, Peter Hitchens. Probably at least some of those, right? Am I supposed to be impressed that some atheists turned Christian? Should we go over the list of the Christians who turned atheist? Either way, I kind of want to read your book. Can I get a review copy? I found it on your YouTube community page, by the way. I see it's on Kent Hovind's website, lulu.com. I don't know if you know this, but I'm kind of a big deal. My Reptoid Hacker Army screwed up the certificates for that website one time. Yeah, took the whole website down. Kent Hovind's website. And I'm not lying, it's true. Some percentage of it. Which, I mean, that includes 0.
Based off of the evidence, astronomy, scientific.
Hello, my name is John Morris Pendleton, astronomist, scientist,
Biological.
biologicist. Who's the astronomer, by the way, that converted to Christianity? Alan Sandage, maybe?
Like, based off of the evidence, they end up coming to the truth that, wow, God has to exist. He does exist.
Yeah, some scientists are Christians or convert to Christianity. We know. That's kind of inevitable, just given the numbers involved. You want to talk about the ones who don't? I don't think you do. Not if we're taking the opinions of scientists on God as evidence for or against God. But then again, you'd probably say every single scientist who's not a Christian is just not reasonable or honest. Real easy get out of jail free card, that one.
I cannot settle for what these atheists are putting forth because it's sounding silly to me now.
Yeah, you mentioned that once or twice.
Comparing the atheistic arguments with a theistic argument, the atheist argument is like scraping gum at the bottom of your shoe, while the theist argument is like buying gum at a store, fresh, and unpacking it and chewing that thing.
And then sticking it on the bottom of your shoe.
You got atheists with and I'm gonna say that again, we got atheists with the arguments that are similar to taking gum off the bottom of your shoe and then chewing it.
Ew, you never said anything about chewing it. So the idea is that atheists are eating dirty gum and you're eating clean gum and you don't like dirty gum. Maybe it'd make you sick and that scares you. Or you just find it distasteful and so you reject it. And this attitude towards arguments is supposed to make you sound reasonable. That's interesting.
While we got the theist on going to a store and buying a pack of gum and unwrapping it and eating that gum.
Oh yeah, saying that the theist arguments are like something mass-produced and pre-packaged and sold in a store is really doing you some favors too.
So they got cleaner gum than the ones that the atheists have.
Right, so you find it shiny and clean and pleasant, and so that's the one you pick, the one you just kind of like the best. Doesn't matter how true it is, as long as it's nicer. Is that actually what you're trying to tell me with this analogy? Because that is what you're telling me.
Their gum is better than the atheist gum. Why? Because their evidence are more factual. They're more reasonable.
What does that have to do with the cleanliness, the newness, and the pleasantness of the gum? I'm starting to think this is not the world's best analogy.
We have more reasonable evidence. And one of the major evidence that we have today when it comes to atheists is that, honestly, and I always repeat this, I'm very repetitive when it comes to this.
You're very repetitive in general. It's really ineffective.
And I will be this repetitive even when I have a debate with somebody who believes that God didn't create them. That if you are not created, you were not designed, you were not given purpose, given value, then I'm going to treat you, right? I, in my heart, believe you to be made in the image of God. But if I'm going to discuss something with you and I'm going to debate you and go according to your worldview, then I'm going to share your worldview with you by treating you how you believe to actually be.
Oh, I see. So would you start off the debate actually asking the person's opinion, or would you just dictate what their opinion is to them and then treat them that way? It's the second one. We all know it's the second one. You are such an asshat.
If you're nothing more than a clump of cells, not designed, not given value, not given purpose, not given a goal, nothing, then I'm going to treat you just like a clump of cells, a big blob. Because that's how you feel about yourself.
Right, so in a debate, you would intentionally act like a dumbass asshole because you don't understand people's worldview or how human societies function, and so you'll treat people like shit for no reason. And somehow you seem to think this would be to your benefit, and you brag about it like you think it does anything but make you look like an ass, and make your religion look even more like misanthropic trash than it already did. I'm confused, man.
You added in a piece there.
Yeah, I added in a piece. Shush!
I didn't say nothing.
But ultimately, at the end, after I shatter your arguments and your worldview, I'm going to give you the truth.
What, that you just want to find some excuse to be a dick?
The truth is that you are made in the image of God. You were given a purpose. You do have value. But you have value because a God who loves you so much gave you value.
I don't need to be given value. I claim it.
He said you have dominion over every land animal and sea creature in this world.
Oh yeah? Well, why didn't he make the dogs the one with the jobs in the weddings? See, if the dogs aren't the ones who do the jobs in the weddings, then it's not true.
He gave man dominion. Man dominion.
I honestly don't know what you want me to take from that. So I guess no comment for once.
So, listen, atheist, if you want to be treated like a valuable human being, then you need to look at yourself as a valuable human being first.
Okay, done. And yet you'll still act like a giant asshole because you'll say, no, 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 not like that. My way, the way I want. Your way's not good enough. Maybe it's good enough for you, but it's not good enough for me. And I'm special and important, and God told me so you have to listen to me. Your opinion on how you view yourself and other people doesn't matter. All that matters is me. So I'm gonna treat you like shit because I wanna. See, you're just looking for an excuse to be an ass. And that's doubly evidenced by the fact that imagine if you're presented with a person who actually doesn't see themselves as having any value, who actually feels so depressed and miserable for whatever reason that they go, I'm a worthless piece of shit and I hate myself and I should just die because I don't matter. And your response is to go, good, then I can treat you like a worthless piece of shit. I take back what I said before. I tried to say that you might be a good person, but no, you're just an asshole. You probably fantasize about hell while you're fucking your fiance. You know, man, you asked me at the start of the video why I would bother to reply to you, why I would bother to refute the complete falsehoods that you were spreading about what atheists think, what our worldview is. And now you're sitting here telling me that because of your belief in those falsehoods, because of what you believe our worldview is, you intentionally and deliberately and constantly treat all atheists like scum. If every Christian believed the same way you believe, maybe a lot of them would do the same. Maybe they already do. And you were talking about the problems with widespread negative public opinion about groups of people, the real world effects it has on those people. And you have the audacity to pretend, despite that there's no reason it should matter to me. When you're spreading falsehoods intentionally designed to create a society where the prevailing public opinion is that atheists should be treated as subhuman filth. Here's your reasoned debate, sir. Get fucked. That's as much reasoned debate as you've earned. I've given you a lot more than you deserve, and that's mainly for the benefit of other people. But what you personally earned is no more than that. Alright, and that's part 2, so come back for part 3, that'll be the end. Thanks for sticking with me this far. Before you go, please give the video a like and click subscribe if you haven't. If you really like the channel, please do give just a bit of thought to supporting with even a couple bucks a month. It makes an enormous difference, and huge thanks to all of the supporters. If you want early access, sign up to the email list on list.logicked.com, and I'll see you next time.